Okay. Well, I have for this new Bagatelle conversation, Juraj Bednar, who is joining us from Slovakia, I think, and James Marsh. So thank you both, gentlemen, for joining me for this conversation. Juraj, yes, Juraj, I'll just let you present yourselves also to each other, but I will explain a bit the rationale because we don't know each other. I follow both of you on Twitter. We are both, we're all of us former Ruri alumni. And well, so Juraj saw some of my videos he appreciated, which encouraged me to do another one. And so I thank you for that, Juraj, that you encouraged me to do another one. And then the thing is, just going a bit backwards, I did one with Ricardo in February. That was just Ricardo Perez Marco, okay? So Ricardo Perez Marco, that you both know, was doing presentation on Bitcoin on the last 2 or 3 editions of Ruri. I was not into those ones, so I didn't see his presentation, but
me neither.
Through common friends, etc. So I connected with him. Actually, we were like in good terms shortly after the interview that I did to him, and in which I were more or less shilling Bitcoin, not exactly, okay, because I don't know much about Bitcoin or about the cryptocurrencies. Nassim said that he had exit all his positions in Bitcoin. He started to tweet that he didn't like Bitcoin. It became very clear. Then there was a black paper. Then those guys fell out for each other. Then Edward Snowden started to tweet some things about the Bitcoin black paper, and some other pundits that were commenting it in Twitter and in other outlets. Okay, so at the end I was defending Taleb's points of view on Twitter, and Ricardo didn't like it, and I think we are not in talking terms anymore because of that, which is kind of stupid. The thing is that I didn't want to do another podcast shilling Bitcoin because I don't think that would be. I'm almost not having Bitcoin right now, and James has some opinions about this topic. He's an obvious non-idiot, and I think it would be good to have both of you on a podcast. Also, I think that even if you will disagree on this and we will comment about Nassim's paper, you both have things in common in that I think both of you are practitioners, basically. Okay, so you also probably will agree on a lot of things except of value set cryptocurrencies, I guess. And yeah, well, yes, you have also your own social media presence, and I follow both of you, and I find your posts generally very interesting. So I thought that this could lead to something. So now I let you, Juraj, to make you a short introduction for us.
All right. So I am mostly an entrepreneur. I started more than 10 companies. I don't do trading, so it's just not for me. And I studied computer science. So with Bitcoin, but also other ventures, I was interested in things like decisions in decentralized systems, how system can converge to a common state. I started several companies in IT security. So for me, Bitcoin was the white paper. It's I think a revolution in computer science in a very specific problem of decentralized consensus. So I didn't arrive to this as other people do, like speculation. Honestly, when I started, I didn't even know if this would actually be worth something, or if it's a good form of asset or money or anything like this. And for the introduction, what might be interesting is that I started this place in Prague, then it expanded to Bratislava and other cities, which is called Paralelní polis in Czech. And it's a place where we wanted to try out if this new thing can be actually used as the only asset or only money, let's say, in a more or less business setting. So Paralpolis is a non-profit which consists of a few things like a think tank. There's a cafeteria, there's a co-working space, there's a very very small incubator, there's a hacker space, and there are economical interactions. And what is interesting about this place is that we only use Bitcoin. We notoriously don't hedge the value, so we don't exchange it into dollars, Czech crowns, euros, nothing like that. And the reason that we started this is we wanted to see, okay, this is this new technological innovation, but can it be actually used as a parallel financial system? So the goal of parallel police not cops, but a city or the smallest unit of settlement, is about trying out all these parallel solutions that are running in parallel to normal, let's say, mainstream or state systems, and see if they work, how they work, what is different about them, and if they're actually usable and if this can be done. So Paralpolis is now more than 5 years old, maybe 7, 8. I'm not very good with dates. I don't remember exact year that we started, and we didn't go bankrupt yet, although Bitcoin
Is
went
that
down.
for profit or?
It's a non-profit, but my personal approach to non-profits is also entrepreneurial. So I believe that even non-profits should have a positive P&L, because that's how you know that you're doing something that people actually want. So it's non-profit in a sense that we don't pay out profits to owners. The organization owns itself, but we make sure that we don't burn wealth and we actually create some value. So we see this as this feedback from the market as super important. And if it would be constantly losing money, we would just kill it, because we are not providing any value to anyone.
Thanks, Juraj. Looks very interesting what you are doing. James, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, I'm James. I've been an options trader for 10 years and, well, a little bit less than that. And then I was a futures trader before that. And I have like family ties to the Chicago Board of Trade, which is the futures exchange in Chicago. They're older future exchanges. My dad was involved in the business, and that's how I got involved in the business. And then I got kind of involved in options trading after futures. And I've been kind of doing that since then. And now I'm trying to becoming a little more interested in like tail hedging, which is, we're kind of making bets on market crashes and stuff like that. And other than that, I'm in Chicago, and I guess that's about it. So mine's a little shorter.
I think okay, that was a short one. I think I hope I'm not being indiscreet because well, Taleb said this publicly, so I guess that it's no secret. Uh, when I was in Real World Risk Institute last year, so it was February 2020, it was just before COVID started and confinement, lockdown, and all that thing. You were asking, I was tweeting about it. I want to tell to anyone seeing this that I was not commissioned by anyone to tweet, to live tweet Real World Risk Institute. That was something that I did myself because I've seen people on tweeting saying, oh, the guy who was, making like a spokesperson of Real World Risk Institute. No, I was just there and I was tweeting it for my own sake. You were asking some questions, like if I could pass them to Taleb. Taleb liked those questions. He says, okay, this James, I know James. He's a guy who made a ton of money in 2008 betting, I don't know, against the market, something like that. So you were already interested in tail hedging, I guess, back then, right?
No, well, no, because I did it just with shorting the market, so it's a little bit different. I wasn't using options, but because I didn't really have enough experience then, and I was only in my late 20s. So no, it's a little. I made money, but I just didn't quite do it the way Nassim would do it with options. So it's
Okay,
different, a little different.
fair enough.
So, yeah.
You have shared with some of us that are Real World Risk Institute alumni some of videos you're doing a course on tail hedging.
Yeah, I have a course, and then I'm trying to just build some other small courses around it, just with options trading. And some people are interested in it, but it's not. It's a very niche subject matter for sure, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to grasp.
Well, yes, I mean, I would like to learn to trade options first, and then maybe because it looks interesting, and you really look to know your subject, and it's also very like practical. Like if I wanted to do tail hedging,
Yeah.
I think I would want to do that. And I say that somehow your book that I read, Juraj, I didn't see if I remember the title, sorry, it was Cryptocurrencies, the Payment Network of the Internet. It's also very practical in how to do, like if you want to use crypto, if you want to to have a wallet, which applications are there, how do you use them, if you want to trade of Bitcoin futures, what are the exchanges? So it's contrary to other books that I had read in the past. It's a Bitcoin Standard, I think, that had Nassim's forward, and then he also followed out for the author, and the other one says, I think the Internet of Money is just another one that I read. It's just that they're more like slightly more ideological. They are not so practically oriented as what you wrote. And so what you are doing, James, also seems very interesting. But I think it's a bit above I almost cannot trade options. As I see. So I just started trading not seriously, but with amounts that are consequential for me after Real World Risk Institute last year. It was like a lucky moment to get started, I would say. And but I may be one of your customers someday. See if I do the proper.
Me too,
progress.
by the way. I'm also interested in learning tail hedging, so I'll check it out too.
It's I mean, my goal is to sort of give an introduction to people and some principles to get started in it in a safe way. You know what I mean? Because it's that's anyway, that's how I phrase it. So.
Okay, without losing your shirt, so to say, right? So just
right.
knowing what you are doing, more or less, what the risks are involved, and
yeah.
Seems interesting. What is like the average? I mean, person, or is it very different public who connected to you? Is it mostly professional traders, or who are interested?
It's well, actually, so far it's been probably 60% real world risk people, and then a few other people from other places. So that's like the makeup of, if you're asking who's interested in the stuff in the course or tail hedging or what.
Yeah.
It's
also the thing is that apparently I don't know, I'm not a trader, professional trader, but apparently tail hedging is something that even the average trader might not be doing. It's not like a mainstream kind of thing, right? So
not at all. I mean, it's and you don't understand with options trading too. I mean, options trading, it can get from pretty basic to very complicated, especially at like the upper levels, very complicated. And I would put myself at an advanced level, but then of course you have people that are, even up here. So, but it depends on how, there's a lot of different ways to trade options. There's strategies and there's a lot of different things you could do. And tail hedging would be kind of on the more advanced end of it. So, that's the thing. It's and some of the issues it seem to me are just people want to know a strategy, but it seems to me a lot of it is also a mentality of how to well, I don't want to get too vague, but just when you're learning how to trade, it's about decision making too. You have to learn how to make decisions, trading decisions, and that's part of it too. So anyway.
Yeah, well, anyway, the thing is that real world risk instances, I think a lot of people, I don't know, we would not be able to quantify, but a lot of them are probably trading or trading options.
I'll say this though, even if you don't want to do this, which is personally fine, my goal too is to have you at least learn something anyway and say, oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that could happen. You know what I mean?
See, I read, I mentioned it to you. I'm reading, I could not finish it before this interview, but anyway, I just wouldn't be off topic. But I read Mark Spitznagel's books. He has written two of them. It's The Tao of Capital, and now he has written one that is Safe Haven. So right. Mark Spitznagel attended the Real World Risk Institute last year for 1 day or so. We talked. So I think I will not make as much, will not take as much from those books as you, is clearly. But I think that there are some intelligent ideas, to manage risk generally wise, that I can get some of those.
One thing I've noticed, I haven't read Safe Haven yet, but I think when Mark, people are complaining about his reviews. Sometimes I've been reading the Amazon reviews. I haven't read the book. I read the Amazon reviews. Some people love them. And people are saying, well, I want a more specific idea of how to do this stuff they're doing. But I think the reality is like a lot of the stuff he's giving you is really important too. And people are not glossing over that. It's like there's a qualitative aspect to, trading and decision making, and he's sort of getting you into that mode without specifically saying, here, let's get out your computer screen and look at all these options, whatever, do that.
Yeah.
But people are saying they tend to think, well, that's what I want to know right away. But I think that's kind of wrong. I mean,
I think people many times they want like a how to get rich quick type of book, and that's clearly not what he's doing.
Yeah, right. They want like a full blueprint where you just pull it out and you're like, this is more complicated than that. And there's just simply qualitative things that he's sort of talking about in that book, which I think are really important to actually getting involved in the strategy. Yet people are kind of just like, throwing them away and saying, well, no, this is just not what I'm looking for, which I think is incorrect. So,
well, anyway, it's also that. So I used to be a bit like, I don't know how you say in English, but in Spanish translation of the term is complex, to that, you go to real world risk institute and you have the impression that everyone else there is trading options, and when Nassim will explain some of these trades, everyone is understanding. It may not be the case, though a lot of them will be doing these things. And the other thing is that I subscribe to a newsletter, and it's my main source of financial gossiping, from an ex-Goldman Sachs banker whose name is Matt Levin. And this guy said that he didn't trade any options in Goldman Sachs until he was 4 years into the bank, which is like, I mean, that's the kind of, that's the kind of reasonable kind of training that you should normally have to start doing those things.
So one of the problems I see in options trading too, and this can be generalized to everything online and internet, is of course we have more information now. We can talk to each other. There's online classes or whatever, but for a lot of stuff, that's still not going to be enough to, if you were going to a job or an internship or learning, face to face. You know what I mean? A lot of people are fooling themselves, and especially with options trading too. Like, you can go on YouTube and you go and see all this other stuff. And of course that is important. And I'm not saying there's nothing to be learned, there is, but it's typically not going to be enough for a lot of people, unless they have someone standing over them. Like you said, you're at a bank and you go into your job and you have mentors and they're there 8 hours a day next to you.
It may be stupid things as like the correct formula on an Excel spreadsheet, or that kind of thing that an old guy will just correct your formula or something. And I don't think that it's so different. Maybe it's more important for option trading. Since there are some of these jobs that you can do remotely, and mine is among the good ones. But still, I'm seeing, because I'm doing e-commerce, and e-commerce is booming, so it's fine. I have work for a long time period, hopefully, and the company I'm working for, they're hiring another e-commerce guys to do things like what I'm doing, and these guys, I see that there's just. I was lucky enough to be 1 year there with the other guys who have been doing the same kind of job in an office setting before we were all sent home, and to just see what they were doing, how they were resolving issues, and so on. And the guys who are coming after me, they are not having that luck, So see, and it's like the guy who is a bit seasoned is a much in advantage with the newbies, and I think that's a problem for many of these investment bankers, that they are not progressing as well as they used to. But anyway,
I think maybe the common thread is what I think we share with most of the Ruri crew is becoming comfortable in uncertainty. I think that is also with the trading. That's my impression. I don't really know because I don't trade, but as James said, there's this book and people kind of expect rules. If this happens, do this, and then you will be profitable. Like these simple things. But the problem in the real world, at least, is that you cannot be certain what to do, because it's all noisy. It's the environment of randomness, and what I think you get only by doing and by being present and kind of doing the craft is that you can make the decisions also when you're not sure of the outcome. You don't know which scenario is happening, and that's the same thing also not only with trading but also with Bitcoin, and definitely with COVID. Everyone was so the most common mistake that I don't see in the Ruri crew is that people are doing is people look at what is the most probable outcome, and they base decision on what the most probable outcome they perceive is going to be. But if you have an environment of uncertainty, the most probable outcome is not the only thing you should be looking at, and you probably got the probability of the outcome wrong anyway. So I think this is something that we only learn by experience. Of course, I read Nassim's books. I had all this theory in my head, but the first bear market was the real experience, and it's the same, by the way, with IT security. So the reason that we went to Ruri is not because we wanted to learn to trade options, but because we had these IT security risk models that were based on likelihood times impact, and the likelihood was total bullshit. We just made it up, and that's the official methodology how people are doing it. So we wanted to see the better way, and one of the things that you only realize when you actually do this is that you most probably get the likelihood wrong, and maybe the most probable outcome is not the one that you think it is. So
yeah, but it's not about forecasting, right? It's something that comes often in Ruri, and several things. The things that I'm surprised to learn that you tell us that you don't trade options, or you don't trade options, or you don't trade derivatives in general, or I mean futures, because you seem knowledgeable about all these things. And
I only use them for hedging, so no leverage and just arbitrage. And I only do trades where I can see what's the outcome regardless of the future price. So I don't try to predict future price. So I would do things like make money on the contango and stuff.
In your book, you explain, like, I mean, what are your rationales about not trying to predict? That was one of the most obvious ones. That I don't know if it's one that you practice. It's an example from, I guess, from your book. I think is dedicate amount of money, like a percentage of your whatever salary to buy crypto, and they just don't look at what the volatility or the market is doing. Just dedicate the same amount and hodl. That would be a strategy that many people have applied successfully so far, not trying to guess the price of Bitcoin. And this is that I think we will run in 10 minutes into a problem that I had not anticipated, that apparently we will be cut, and maybe we'll need to reschedule another call. Sorry about that, because I think I was downgraded from my account recently, and then the new version of Zoom does not allow for calls for more than 3 people. Okay, anyway, when that will happen, we will see how it goes. Sorry. Okay, this is about Ruri that you were saying, that I've been there twice, actually. I was in February 2018 and in February 2020. So I'm a big fan of Nassim, of course, and his books that I've read as you. And said that also that the demographic changed slightly, in that, for instance, the first time I went, there were several guys who had made money specifically trading Bitcoin in 2018. I think that the second time is maybe a bit larger audience. Nassim asked the question, how many people own or were trading Bitcoin? And there were not so many hands raised, which in retrospect, so this was February 2020, I find a bit surprising, because, for instance, the company that I'm working for that is on luxury items, they say that most of people that they have surveyed, they are owning crypto assets. So you can say the wealthy people are so it's becoming like a kind of a normal asset to have in a portfolio for people that that are lucky enough to own a good amount of money. And it is that in the last Ruri there were not so many Bitcoin guys. So maybe there was many that had made a lot of money in 2017 or something, and that they signed up for Ruri, and that demographic had vanished a little in the last Ruri, where it was more finance people in general, not linked to Bitcoin, and IT people also that, like as you say, for managing IT security risk, or just because they like Nassim, like myself, sign up into it. That's something that we were also discussing about. I mean, maybe we'll let later James tell us about Nassim's black paper, as he called it, but it's the what I wanted to say. The fact that Nassim has apparently changed his mind about Bitcoin. He got into an argument with Ricardo on Twitter. Ricardo said that he was not going to be teaching the lesson that he was giving on the last edition of Real World Risk Institute. And Rafael Duadi suggested, I don't know if you are going to be the next instructor for the Bitcoin session, because I heard that Rafael was suggesting this on social media. Is that something that is going to happen, or is not something that it is
I don't know.
planned?
They asked me and I said I would be happy to do it, but it's up to the institute to.
I think that Nassim has changed his mind so radically about Bitcoin that maybe that is not going to happen. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't actually think that Bitcoin topic is so relevant to Ruri. Maybe I don't know. I didn't see. I was at Ruri in 2016, so there was nothing about Bitcoin, and
it was
I
not there
it.
before 2020. So
Yeah,
I think just that Ricardo, as far as I know, is a friend of Raphael. They studied together. École Normale Supérieure in France, and Raphael suggested that he may be an interested instructor, and Nassim agreed.
I think the problem is that if anybody, like Bitcoin or cryptos seem, for the people that are really believe in them, they seem extremely passionate about them, to the point that if someone says something negative or has a different opinion, and this would especially apply to Nassim, they're getting really attacked by a lot of people, and I think people think like Nassim, he seems abrasive about Bitcoin, on the surface, but you don't realize he's getting 10,000 emails a day from people just, I'm surprised he's probably getting death threats, you know what I mean, from Bitcoin people. So it's like you have people out there that are just so, they're great. I mean, I think they're crazy. I mean, they're way too over the top with their opinions. Also, like yesterday, I pointed a comment about volatility in Bitcoin, and some guys already, he's not even addressing what I'm saying. He's just there to just start crap, about whatever. And maybe that's just because I don't know, that everything had a bad sell-off yesterday, so people are pissed. I don't know, but it's disturbing to have people get to that level. And Nassim is obviously getting that at a level that must be unbelievably bad, and so he writes a paper, he submits it to a journal, which is a legit journal, and then he has all these people attacking him. and you have to keep in mind that there are people, higher level people that are outside of the Bitcoin community that are certainly taking everything that he writes extremely seriously. You know what I mean?
Well,
So,
that's the thing. I think
so
that some of these campaigns that you're saying, that some of them will be spontaneous by people that are not very well in their heads. Maybe
right.
some of the hate that I think he's getting, because I've seen some patterns in some of the attacks that he's getting. So maybe there is something that it's even more sinister than that. But it's also something that Nassim himself has said, that there is like a kind of revelation for many people that are in the Bitcoin community, or many, I don't know, many what amount of people would be, because I'm not there, but that they are having like kind of a religious experience. And
Right.
that's something that we have discussed, the sectarian aspect before this call of Bitcoin, and with you, Juraj, for instance, of it being potentially an asset for the currency. This is that there are some patterns of that like Bitcoin crashed like 70% of the value, or whatever, 80, I don't know, in 2017, and there was still like 80% people that own coins that were keeping them, and such kind of behaviors that are not maybe standard or rational, or that implies some sort of belief, and that might be actually a good thing for the value of the coin.
I don't know about the value, but yeah, James is right. There are many people that have this kind of religious belief in Bitcoin, and are not very nice to outsiders or people with a contrarian view. I think, though, that this is kind of story of our times, I would say. Say something controversial about a vaccine, say something about another political party, and you will most likely get these crazy people email you stuff and not be nice to you. And it's a top, it can be 1%. They're very annoying, but that is not what Bitcoin community as a whole is. That's just the loudest people, and it is I think in like talk about Tesla stock, and you get people who religiously buy it, you have people who religiously short it, and